Your business is not profitable and it's your fault. I currently manage a nine-figure portfolio as a fractional CFO where myself and my partners go into companies and we make them more profitable. In the next 15 minutes, I'm going to show you how you can take any business from a low margin wreck into something that makes more profits than you've ever imagined. And it all starts with understanding that your pricing power depends on your service quality. Okay, so what does it mean when I say pricing power depends on service quality? You have a whole marketplace and there are other competitors offering similar or the exact same service offerings to your ideal customers. And they're being flooded at scale every single day with different offers leading to the same exact process. And this is why your service quality, the ability for you to fulfill on your customers at scale, is going to be the differentiator between you and the other firms over the long term. There are tons of companies that can make a few $1,000,000 within a year and then disappear 2 years later. There are very few companies that can stand the test of time based on operational constraints, infighting, high acquisition costs for customers, lack of demand, technological disruption, whatever it may be. It's very hard for a business to make it past 5 years, even if they're generating revenue. And this is because they lack the ability to truly understand where their pricing power lies and why they're charging what they're charging to their ICP. A lot of times businesses are forced to price their services higher than what their actual ICP is willing to pay. ICP is ideal customer profile, or they're undercharging their ICP and they can't sustain the cost of servicing a larger client. So they either burn out or they look to exit the business, or maybe they start looking for people to take revenue shares or profit shares or equity in their company so that those people can run the business for them because they simply haven't built the systems required to create a competitive advantage in pricing power. So what does that actually mean? It means that there are KPIs that can help you identify what pricing power looks like for your business and how you should proceed with actually running your company. And these are KPIs that I've basically put together. It's not an exhaustive list of everything, but these are essentially KPIs that I find in nine-figure companies that they're still tracking every single day. So if they're tracking that every single day, month, quarter, or year, it's probably something that you should start tracking as well. Because if it stood the test of time at $1,000,000 and it's still around at 9 figures, it's probably a good KPI to track. So without further ado, let's get into exactly which KPIs you should be tracking in your business, whether you're an SME or you're an enterprise institutional level company. These are the 9-figure KPIs that we still track in our companies. So we have sales and advertising KPIs. First on the list is customer acquisition cost. You have sales and advertising divided by the amount of customers that you get per period. So all the costs involved in sales and advertising is your true CAC. This is the most important figure in your business because it's going to tell you what the unit economics are of acquiring a customer, right? Nothing is free in life. You have to advertise, you have to spend on marketing, you have to spend on demos, maybe lead magnets, whatever it is. There's a certain cost associated with advertising to clients. This video is not free. It's either costing me time, energy, or money to put it all together. After a certain point, we get clients and people that want to work with us based on the videos that they see and the value that we're delivering. So there's a customer acquisition cost to everything, right? Then there's also CAC payback period. So how long does it take for you when you invest your marketing dollars, advertising dollars, sales dollars for them to come back with friends? And this is where we get contribution margin. This is how I like to look at things. I like to look at things from a contribution margin perspective. If you don't know what I'm talking about with contribution margin, I'm going to link a video right here where you can go and look into what I mean by contribution margin. I've spoken about it extensively in the past videos. So basically what I try to understand is what is my CAC in relation to my contribution margin. So if I'm spending $1 to acquire a customer, ideally I'm making $4 in contribution margin. Most of the time, especially in service businesses, you're getting 2 to 3 times your CAC. And then I want to know what the average contract value is. What I mean by that is average new contract value. So not lifetime value. I just want to know what my average contract value is right off the bat, because this will help me understand what my CAC payback period is, what my pricing elasticity looks like, and a lot of other cool metrics. So that's sales and advertising KPIs that companies are still tracking to this day. Then we have fulfillment KPIs. We want to understand what our utilization percentage looks like. One of the hardest things for large companies or even small companies with 20 employees to get their heads around is like, are we paying our people to actually work? Or are they just sitting around and then at the end of the month they say, oh, sorry, like I'll get it to you next month? Or are they delivering up to the potential that they have available to them? Or are they, just lacking projects to work on, right? So we want to understand what their utilization percentage is and see whether team members overworked or somebody's underworked. And that's how we do it. We basically calculate employee throughput, which means the number of projects that we've assigned, how many have they completed, and then working hours. And then we continuously test that limit, or we reduce it depending on the situation. We compare it to averages and benchmarks of other employees, and that's how you create a utilization percentage. Then you have delivery margin. This is more mathematical and it's based on the P&L, and it's also kind of similar to that bookkeeping system that I put in the thumbnail above. But basically what we're trying to understand is when we deliver something from a unit economics perspective, how much revenue are we generating for our core fulfillment team? So we want to understand that margin percentage, and this is the formula to get that. And then we have time to value. So how long does it take for your customer from onboarding to get their first success? This is something you have to measure in your business. It's one of the best ways to understand where the bottlenecks are, especially if you're in an SME where your business is making $1 to $5 million. I know for a fact you haven't nailed this down yet. Now we have customer service KPIs. When a customer has a complaint, what is the median time to resolve a ticket? This is something you have to track. Then ask your customers who had an experience with you, whether it was successful or unsuccessful, how likely are they to refer your business to somebody else? So that means tracking that promoter score, right? From a scale of 0 to 10, 1 to 10, however you want to do it. How likely are you to refer us to somebody else, right? And anything above an 8 is a +1. Anything, between, I think it's like 6 to 8 is a 0, and anything below a 6 is a -1, right? We want to understand how likely is somebody to refer us, right? Because that's organic marketing, right? We don't even have to work. We don't have to invest any money to do it. It increases LTV. It's phenomenal. And then we have net revenue retention, right? And there's different ways to calculate that formula. But essentially what we want to understand is what percentage of our revenue is recurring and consistently staying with us. And then what percentage of our revenue is just out the door, not coming back. And then we have HR KPIs. So when you're looking at HR, we want to understand headcount on a month-over-month basis, because if you're scaling a company, it means you have a good acquisition channel. It means you need to scale your fulfillment. It means you need to scale your customer service. It means you have to scale a bunch of other things in the company. And it means you got to hire people. And when you're hiring people, you might hire too fast. And as a CFO, I constantly am budgeting per head count. I'm constantly thinking about revenue per employee, contribution margin per employee, utilization rates. I'm thinking about all this stuff. So what I want to always look at the end of every quarter, personally, could be even every month, is just the net headcount change, right? When you're talking about 50 to 100 person organizations, this is where it starts to be important. And then we want to look at how much time it takes to fill a certain role. So the more elite the role, the more seniority in the role, the longer it's probably going to take to fill that seat. And as a CFO, what we like to do is budget the amount of time that it takes to find somebody's replacement as part of our war chest and treasury savings. And I'll discuss this later in another video, but essentially we want to understand how long does it take for us to fill a role. And then we have regrettable attrition rate. This is the most important KPI when it comes to measuring your HR department. How many of your all-star players left the company year over year, quarter over quarter? Why are they leaving? You want to have people in the business that can drive the business forward without you telling them to. They know exactly what needs to be fixed. They know what systems need to be brought in. They know who to hire as well, and who of their friends need to come in the business as well. These are the people in your business who are going to move mountains in your company at scale. Whenever they go, the business declines, and we want to know why they're leaving. What about their departure is a result of the company, and what part of it is just uncontrollable circumstances that made them have to leave? These are really important statistics to think about in your business, because you can't scale a business if you don't have repeat customers, and you can't scale a business if you don't have team members that will stay on with you for the long haul. And then time to productivity. So when we hire somebody new, how long does it take for them to go go from being that new guy to actually being productive and actually, maxing out their utilization percentages. These are really important KPIs, so make sure that you're tracking this in your business. Then we have my favorite, finance KPIs. Cash conversion cycle. What does your cash conversion cycle look like? How long does it take for the money to cycle in your business? How much runway do you have, right? What's your burn rate? How much cash do you have in the war chest, savings, treasuries, tax accounts, all that stuff. Contribution margin. Once again, so important. It's in the bookkeeping video that I spoke about earlier in this video. Click on the link in the description below. I'm going to make sure to include that video in the description because this is just so important. And then we have ROI per initiative. So every quarter, all the executives will probably get together and they'll make initiatives for what they want to do for the rest of the year or for the next quarter or for the next week or whatever it is. Your job when it comes to finance is to figure out how to measure the ROI of the certain initiatives that you're taking. There's many ways to do it. Return on equity, return on invested capital, return on invested free cash flow, whatever it is, the way you want to do it. There's a ton of different ways as well. Just figure out a way to measure ROI for every initiative that you have in your company. Then we have free cash flow. Free cash flow is my favorite tool to get a quick and dirty look of where the business is at and how much we can spend on growth. Free cash flow can be calculated in many different ways, but my favorite way is to simply take the difference in net working capital month over month, quarter over quarter, year over year, and then add net income. There's ways to do it where you have EBITDA and then you remove depreciation and amortization, and then you subtract maintenance CapEx and you got your free cash flow that way. There's a ton of other ways to do it. I just like the first way because it's simple for SMEs, like anything below $20 million in revenue, it's probably going to work. And then we have unbilled accounts receivables. So how quickly are you collecting on your accounts receivables? How much of your accounts receivables are already in collection versus those that aren't even billed yet? I had a client come to me recently and I showed him, right, from one consultation that they were missing $60,000 plus in their business simply because they didn't collect on it. And this is a really small business, relatively speaking to the like 9-figure, headline that I have in the video. But like, hey man, if I had an extra 60 G's, I'd be pretty happy too, right? So, unbilled AR can creep up on you and it can cause a lot of cash flow problems if you're not on top of it. It's really important for finance to track all of these KPIs, and there's different ways to track the KPIs too. It could be on a scorecard, it could be on a reporting system. It depends on the needs of the business and where your business is at. In a nutshell, we have only 5 departments that are super important to track that 9-figure companies are still tracking and measuring. It's not rocket science. It is a process. There are things that have to happen for these KPIs to be green all across the board. What our company does is we help small to medium-sized businesses scale, typically $500,000 up in revenue. If you want to see how we can help your business scale, book a call in the link in the description below, and I'll see you on the next one.